These are the new biological ships in Stellaris Biogenesis, and they're not just cosmetic. These ships grow, gaining additional firepower and components. The techs are also different to mechanical, and on top of that, they even function differently to mechanical ships, like buffing or suppressing enemy ships with the Weaver. In this video, I will break down everything to do with biological ships, and give tips and show you my example ship builds and fleet compositions. This is so you know exactly what's going on with these biological ships for when you next use them. This video will start from basics, but will have timestamps so you can skip around the video. And trust me, you're definitely not going to want to miss the tip where you can get extremely cheap ships that then grow into powerhouses. Get into it. The first step to biological ships is actually before you even enter the game, as when you're creating a new empire, you will need to come over to ship sets and select either biological, which is the new bioships, or mechanical, which is the old corvettes, frigate, destroyer, cruiser, battleship. Now the Shellcraft and Spinivore are both biological ships. They will just look different. Once you select those, you can load into the game. Now when you first load into the game, you'll be given a starting fleet with a juvenile Weaver and a juvenile Mauler, which is a bit different to mechanical ships where you start with just 3 corvettes. That does mean if you come over to fleet management and ship design, you do start with the Mauler and Weaver already researched. If we do click on the Mauler, what does any of this mean? I'm going to give myself all technologies so it's easier to explain what's happening, but essentially we have 3 tiers of each biological ship. You can see the Mauler as juvenile, mature, and elder. Same for the Weaver, Harbinger, and Stinger. This means for each growth stage, you only get the components in this line. So the juvenile gets 1 G slot, 1 S slot, 2 armor slots, and 1 A slot. Then when it grows up, which we will cover soon, it will have 1 G slot, 2 S slots, 4 armor slots, and 1 A. They don't get all of the previous ones or all of these just in the line, because otherwise the Stinger would be insane with 9 X slots. No, an Elder only gets 4. Now most of these sections can be changed. For example, for the Mauler, you can have the Swarm and Picket, and these are going to be the same, just with extra slots at each stage. Now on the right here, we will see a custom role. This will basically build an AI or pre-selected by the devs ship. So if we click Brawler Stealth, it will make, or try to make stealth brawlers, even though it didn't put stealth components on. Don't use these. I'm going to teach you exactly what to do. Now above this is the name. You can randomize the name, and below this is something new. You can actually cycle through each stage to see the stats and apply the components. So if on the juvenile, we put a tier 1 engine, and then we go to the mature, you can see it still has the tier 5. If we go back, it has a tier 1. This allows you to customize all the components for each stage. Below this, you can see the build time, upkeep, and cost, which of course is going to increase if you build at higher stages, and also noticeably, the build time also doubles each time. Juvenile starts at 75, mature 150, and elder 300. This is quicker than letting it grow up, however. And also the upkeep for food and alloys will go up, as well as the cost to make them. We then get the ship size and the rest of stats. These biological ships are from the Biogenesis DLC. If you're wanting to buy it and try them out, you can use my code or link in the description on the Paradox store, where you can buy Biogenesis, Stellaris, other Stellaris DLCs in any Paradox game, and it will give me a cutback, which is greatly appreciated and helps out the channel a bunch. This is not a limited time thing, so if you're buying stuff in the future, you can just use it. The site will give you a Steam key, which you can easily use to redeem it on Steam. It should follow regional pricings, and Paradox usually follows Steam sales, but not all the time. The link is in the description. My code is also EP3 Stellaris. It's greatly appreciated. Now back to the video. Now, what is the point in growing up? Why would you not just always use the Elder? Or maybe just the Juvenile, because it's cheaper. So the first point, which is quite obvious, is the older it is, the more powerful it is. You're getting essentially double the slots, even stronger armor, and double the A slots. However, there is a slight negative. Ship sizes always remain the same. This is your fleet command limit that you see in your fleet, and they will always take up 1 slot in the ship size. However, each time it grows up, the naval capacity usage will go up by half of its ship size. So 1, 1.5, 2. You can see the same for the Weaver. It will go up 2, 3, 4, Harbinger 4, 6, and 8, and then Stinger 8, 12, and 16. This will affect your naval capacity, which is at the top, And if you go over, you'll start paying up more upkeep on these ships. So you don't want to go too far over, as your economy might crumble. Now, the benefit to the ship size staying the same is you can cram ultra powerful ships that should be more naval power into a much smaller size, meaning you can get the benefits of big, strong leaders that give ship fire rate buffs, or maybe daily hull and armor regen. Okay, so now why wouldn't you just always build the Elder? Well, the Elders are much more expensive, pretty much double the cost. And instead of doing that, you could build a Juvenile and let them grow for each stages. How does the growth work? Well, by default, you will have no growth. That's because you need to add certain components for them to actually grow from each stage. So we're currently on Juvenile. If we come over to this bottom empty slot, we can see there's a bunch of buffs. We could either make them really strong by using corrosive fluids to give further buffs to armor and weapon damage, or sublight speed and evasion chance, or we can let them grow. This growth gland is unlocked when you research mature, and then the accelerated juvenile growth glands is unlocked when you get the elder tech. Yes, that does mean you do need to research the techs to actually grow into mature and elder maulers, and the same is for each stage, and it is in society rather than engineering. So what I like to do is put those growth glands on the juvenile and then mature. You only get the mature growth gland for the mature, and just slowly let them grow up, because we're paying half the food and alloys, and then we'll get an extremely strong ship eventually. So if we upgrade these designs, we can actually monitor each ship on how they're growing. We come over to the fleet, then ship details, we can see how it is growing. We currently have +2 and it needs 60 to grow to the next stage. Growth can also be sped up with the growth chamber component, which you will also research. Any ships docked at the starbase will get a +2 on growth rate, but 100% more dock ship upkeep. My tip for this, if you really want to use it, is have 2 separate starbases. One where you keep your fleet stocked that are fully grown, so you can use the crew gestation chambers, which give you -25% docked upkeep, and then one where you can grow. Once they're all fully grown, you can take them off the growth chamber starbase and move them to the cheaper starbase. So to check that, remember, we can go to the fleet, the ship details. Now there's 14 months because it's +4. Now all stages get these growth glands, but something very interesting about the Weaver is it can have developmental pheromones. This affects the growth in its fleet by +2 or +1. Now we can whack that on to grow even quicker. Now we're at +6. So those are ways you can affect growth. I would use this tip to build the juveniles if you're not immediately struck by war. If war is looming and you don't have time to grow, it is probably better to actually build those elders. Now, before I go into specific designs, I do want to point out something very interesting, just to note if you're even experienced at the game. Biological ship components have different stats in mechanical ship. Now, if we compare to the wiki for the mechanical components, the cost is the same on the component of the upkeeps replaced with food. The damage, however, is 1 to 1,352 for biological, but 2 to 1,690 for the level 2 focus arc emitter for mechanicals. Already less damage. The cooldown is also longer by 5 days for the biological ship. The accuracy and tracking is the same. However, the range is different, with 30 less on the biological ship. That means the average damage for biological ships is almost half, actually 40 less than the 83.76 that mechanical ships can output. Weirdly, this isn't consistent. For example, the phase molecular disruptor does 1 to 23 damage, whereas the mechanical version on small does 1 to 19. The cooldown's the same, the tracking and accuracy is the same, but the range is halved. But this overall means the average damage is actually more at 5.43. It has the same penetration too. The stats are a bit wacky, so if you think something's bad or mechanical, it might be worth checking the actual stats for the biological, as it's slightly different. Just don't presume you know exactly what the components do. On top of that, there are new weapons and whole new mechanics that we're about to get into. If you're finding these tips helpful, make sure to subscribe. I'm on a mission to get 100k before the end of the year, and you can help me out. Thank you. Back to the video. Let's start with the Maulers, your early game Corvette equivalent. You have 2 sections you could pick from, the Picket or the Swarm. I would just go the Swarm. Point defense is usually good for killing missiles. Missiles have low tracking, your ships are quite fast and evasive. You don't really need to shoot them down unless you're using them combined. Now, on the G slot, you have to use the mandibles. These do have upgrades, but what does it do? It has a super small range, 0 to 10. I think it's the lowest of any weapon. It penetrates through 100% of shield, but does more armor and hull damage. For me, this is where I started for building my ships, as we have to attach this. Let's match it up with something that does similar. Early game, you won't have access to disruptors, so probably just go for lasers. But if you do have alt X, disruptors are amazing to pair with them. They do more damage than mechanical disruptors, like we've just seen, but they penetrate shield as well. So we're not doing any damage to shield. Who needs it? It will also penetrate armor, so it will help once we get through to the hull. But more importantly, disruptors usually suck against star bases. But G-slot mandibles do more damage based on the size of the target, the 50% of the ship's target. So it will do more damage the bigger the thing is. Star bases are pretty big, like Titans, battleships, stuff like that. This is going to rip through. A great combination as well with the disruptors is the range, 0 to 15. That means the ship's going to want to get in. So what does that mean? We need to be quick and probably evade. So I attach afterburners, obviously go with your fastest engines, and then I put the swarm computer on. This gives ship fire rate and evasion chance. The better computer you have, the more evasion chance and fire rate, so it's good to go. Then I just ram it full of armor. Something very interesting, again, because it's biological, armor actually gives hull points, and when it's below 50%, gives daily armor regen. Shield doesn't give hull, so I actually think armor's very, very good. Obviously, you could be countered if there's something that does mass armor and hull damage, but those are the risks you're going to have to take. With those sorted out, we can sort out the bottom slot. As I've said before, I would personally put the growth glands, as I want to get to the mature and then elder stage as quickly as possible, as we double pretty much everything or over double. So on the juvenile, we're going to put the accelerated growth gland. The mature, we're going to keep the mature growth gland. And then the elder, this is where we can get spicy. We can either add a mandible weapon damage and armor damage, which really buffs up those mandibles, or we can be faster and have more sublight speed. Since our disruptors do nothing to armor, I'm going to go with that sublight speed and evasion chance, have the swarm computer on, and we're looking good to go. This is very, very strong. You can swarm down enemies if they don't have enough small weapons. It's pretty good. And there's not too much diversity with this build, as you're going to really run pickets. Just kill them. Just murder them. Now, an alternative to these A-slot afterburner maulers, we need to get in, right? What's the enemy of getting in? Getting shot before you get in. You could easily combine this with cloaking instead. It nullifies shields. We're not using shields. All our weapons are extremely close range. These ships are built for cloaking. So then use the cloaking, you click activate cloaking. They are now cloaked. You go up to the enemy, wait till you're right next to them, then attack them or uncloak. They will melt in the matter of seconds because you're right on top of them with your small weapons. It could be an extremely good combo. Now let's move on to the Weaver. Now there is a juvenile support and juvenile suppressor. These do nothing functionally different. It helps the AI build to know, oh, I want to do suppression, oh, I want to do support. So don't even worry about choosing a section. It does nothing. What am I talking about with suppression and support? These P-slots are very different to P-slots we're used to. These P-slot weapons either fire at your own ships or enemy ships, giving your own ship support and enemy ships negatives. So there's buffs ranging from armor hardening, daily hull regen, daily armor regen, or confusion, where when they're hit, they're not going to know what to do. You can then lower evasion chance, sublight speed, and give focus fire effect to whatever they hit, which means your ships are going to go for the target that these hit. More evasion chance to your own ships, less ship fire rate, less tracking, and less range, or more ship fire rate, more range, more armor penetration, more shield penetration. These all have a range of 40. They do have different tracking and accuracy stats, so they could miss. Now, in terms of what to pair with these, in a perfect world, you probably want to sit back, dish out damage, and buff the friendly units or damage them. I think it's wise to go with something with a similar range, but if we're pairing it with the previous fleet, look what has 40 range. The disruptors. So we all do that damage through them, and since say we were pairing it with the Mauler, we absolutely probably want the evasion chance and sublight speed. Now, a thing to note is there are different levels of components of these. They don't all start off as crazy as these stats. The first one gives 5 evasion chance and 10% sublight speed. Now again, I just think armor is the way, and we want to catch up and keep up with all the ships, so afterburners, of course. The meta hasn't really changed. Speed is still king. That's what I'd go with. Now, in terms of the computer, we get an option between suppressor or support. If we're doing support weapons, which is why I'm comboing it, we just want support if we're just doing support, or just want suppression if we're doing suppression. We can get support fire rate 5% evasion chance, or suppression weapon fire and evasion chance. These ships will charge straight at the enemy, try to deal as much damage as possible from the range of their shortest weapons. They are going to charge in, but the different computers gives them different focuses. For example, the main target will be enemy ships, or the main target will be allied ships. We'll give them more evasion. We're up to 73. evasion. That gives them a bunch of evasion at juvenile. And actually, funnily enough, for some reason the evasion drops after the mature stage to 54. That's weird. Could be a mid-max thing. You could just stay at mature and grab that evasion. I don't know. Same is actually true with the Mauler and a bit more drastic. The juvenile has 76%, mature has 62, and then the elder has 50. Probably. I'm predicting it now. Obviously, I have not done massive tests. We will do hopefully a bigger deep dive into exactly what the meta is for the ships. But mature could be the meta stage because of that evasion. More so on the Weaver with that 73%. But anyway, what are we putting on these bottom slots? It's going to be the growth glands for juvenile and mature. And then we're going to have the elders have that support weapon, fire rate, and ship weapon damage. I don't really care about the extra growth rate. You could switch them around if you really wanted to. In terms of meta fleet composition, early game you're tempted to spam both of them. However, I have had it many times where because of the Weaver's longer range, especially if you have lasers on, which has 75 range instead of 40, only the Weavers will fire. And because your Maulers have 10 range, they're just sat there doing nothing. I don't think it's entirely worth it to combine the ships for that reason. Combat computers do weird things. It's been a bug for a while. I would rather the consistency. It's why in my mechanical ship breakdown, I only had one fleet type, because mixing ranges and computers sometimes goes weird. It doesn't always, but it sometimes does. So I would just spam those Maulers, personally. Now, you're getting to mid-game. You've researched the Harbinger, and you really want to use it. This is our carrier ship class. Each stage goes up, and we get more hangars and point defense, or hangars and G slots. I personally think the hangar and G slots probably better. I'm a big proponent in just kill them. Honestly, just murder them. We obviously are going for hangars. Ancient driller drones could be good, but they're not as good as tier 3 hangars if you have gone to late game. In terms of your G slots, you have two options. The neutron thrower, which used to be meta. Leave a comment if you remember the neutron launcher meta. This will do less shield damage, but way more armor and hull at a big range. However, let's look what the hangars are doing. It does shield penetration and 50% more armor damage. Look what else penetrates shields and does more armor damage. It's a match made in heaven. We will combine that. Now, they both do have 120 range, but the hangar has an engagement range of 125. That means when it's 125 distance away, it will start pooping out hangars and firing at them. Now, Strikecraft needs the ship that it came from to be alive. So our ship design is going to be keep them alive and make them run away. What do we do for that? Yep, you're right. It's afterburner time. We want speed. We want to run away. Then, because we're not going to have too much power, and by the way, me spamming all of this armor is great because we save on power, which does slightly benefit your damage. Only a little bit, but since armor's great here, we may as well. Interestingly, you can see we start with medium slots, then it goes to L and M slots, then all L. These slots just essentially mean you get more. It's quite a bit more, not double more. It's like 2.5 times, but it does cost a lot more. Now again, go with your engines. All of this is standard, just if you have a better one, put it on. In terms of combat computer, this is actually kind of a tough one. If you find yourself having tier 2 whirlwind missiles, but low tier hangars, it may be worth going for the artillery, as this will buff the fire rate and ship weapon range, which pairs way more with the G slots. However, there is the carrier computer giving 100% engagement range. This will make them stay at the maximum engagement range of its hangars as well, so they're going to run away as fast as their little bio flails can take them at their 264 speed, or 285 at the max there. Because we have max hangars, I think we should probably favor the hangars. Hangars are really good. They build up over time with damage as well, because the more come out and don't get shot down, the better. Now, if you know you're playing with someone who's countering hangars, you could turn it into artillery. It's quite flexible. Now, again, we're going to do the growth glands. I think it's absolutely beneficial to keep growing them up on both stages. And then at the Elder, we obviously can either choose ship engagement range and craft armor, or ship engagement range and less cooldown. I don't think there's much point going for plus 10 armor. It's got 12. If something's going to shoot it down, it's going to shoot it down. I'd much rather you just spam them out more, because it's a win more mechanic. If they're getting shot down, they're getting shot down. We've got whirlwind missiles. These are probably your best bet late game. They're going to be way more survivable than the Maulers, because they're going to be sent in and they'll be right next to the enemy, so a lot will probably die. You'll need to reinforce these a lot. The Weaver's just a support. You could combine this, but with this combat commuter charging in, I don't want the risk of my Harbingers running in as well. But you could absolutely give them more range, fire rate, or you could make a fleet of Weavers to actually lower their sublight speed and evasion chance just as a sacrificial lamb, but I don't think that's worth it. Spamming Harbingers mid-game before you get the Stingers is probably a good option. So last and definitely not least is the Stinger. Remember, we only get one column. The Stinger comes with a juvenile line and artillery. Do not bother building the line. None of these L and M slots are really worth it. Build the artillery. And if you don't have X slots yet, just use the Harbingers. The X slot's what makes this whole thing work. Now, I use the focus arc emitter as an example because we're using it here. It is worse than the normal X slot, but we, at smaller stage, get 2. What does the arc emitter do? It has a big cooldown, but it can do a lot of damage. A lot of damage. It penetrates shield and armor, so it will just go to the hull, and for a ship to die, only the hull has to go, not the armor and shields. Just build enough of these to be first strike. And at Elder, there's going to be 4 of them firing from this one ship. Yeah, pretty good. In terms of L slot, hear me out. It honestly might be worth keeping them blank. We'll come back to them. Again, L slots, I'm just doing armor. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I don't see a point in using the shields, especially on artillery classes here. Now, in terms of the A slots, we could either go for chance to hit, or we could be very fast again. I'm going to go for very fast because, sure, we miss, but we can just run away from them. Now, again, best engines, best shields, etc. Then we get to the computer. We can either do artillery or line. We're doing artillery, okay? Ship fire rate and ship weapon range. The ship will stay at a long range, firing its longest range weapon on the target. So it's just going to stay at the X slot weapon range. This is another reason why maybe L slot avoidance is good. X slot has 120 range, and it's going to stay at that range. However, the other weapons have 80. 40, 80. We do have 100 here and 96, but that means the ships will need to be in that range, which we're trying to stay at 120. If I were to put weapons here, I'd put 1 kinetic and 1 laser, just to split the damage up. Now, when there's 3 slots, I will always focus the armor and hull, which is from lasers, because armor and hull make up more of the ship than shields. And then when we have 4, I'd go with that. And the benefit of not filling these slots is it will make the ship cheaper. Now, you could also meta it a little bit, and you could do this for all the other ships, but having them more empty at the juvenile, building the juvenile, and then let them grow up will keep the components, which cost stuff, but it didn't cost you because you grew up to them. It's a bit meta-y, but it could save and pump out extra ships. For example, what if our juvenile had nothing? It costs 2,400. Wait, we could even do it with components. So a ship here at juvenile stages, it's only going to have the growth gland, which is going to cost 1,300 food, 0.5 exotic gases. If we go with the design we had before, without the dark matter stuff, it would cost 2,200 food, 900 alloys, a moat, half an exotic gas, and 7 crystals. So if we build the Swiftshore juvenile, and then we have it sitting here growing, and I don't know, let's get a weaver that gives growth progress rate at every stage. And we also have the growth progress rate. No, you can't combine it because it doesn't have a weapon. That's fine. If we put 1 component on, or probably the FTL drive, you would be able to merge them up, but that's fine. We just have to wait a little bit longer. Okay, it's going to grow up. Now, bam. We have an insanely strong ship. And yes, this could apply to every single ship that I've been showing you. Now we can just let it grow up into the even bigger class. And bam, you've got a 4x slot Stinger for 1,300 food. Not even alloys, by the way. It's a bit crazy. Now, the bottom slots, we're obviously getting those growth glands, but at the max level, we get 2 choices. We're either going for ship fire rate and tracking, or ship weapon range and tracking. I am very torn between these two. Fire rate means we can get off those X slots a lot quicker, and because it's 15 days, that is shaving off 1.5 days. But 10% weapon range on a range that's 120 means the range goes up to 132. I am torn. I actually don't know which one's better. Have one of them on. I suppose if you're running these L slots, fire rate's probably better, and if you're just going X slots, the range, it's a hard one. I'm not afraid to admit, I don't know which one's better. They're both really good. Unfortunately, Titans are exactly the same. We get the Pertation beam. We do get the biological ship weapons, so I would probably go with your longest range ones as per usual. I'd go for split shield damage, and then I'll go bio lasers, the armor and hull, because we have some really good hard hitting shields. Combat computer does range and fire rate. I'd go all armor because the armor still applies the hull and armor, and daily armor regen below half. Stacking that is very important. And then the aura can be what you want. I'd probably either reduce their fire rate, stopping combat disengagement chance is good if you're going to have multiple fleet battles. Fire rate's really good. Tracking's also pretty good, especially on those X slots. Daily hull and armor, pretty good too, since we've got so much armor. Evasion chance, not so good, because I would recommend pairing the Titan with a fleet full of these X slots. I would go ahead and put a Titan with the Elder Stingers all grown up. Spam these late game. You're not going to have a problem. If fleet power is messed up in this build where percentages adding to fleet power doesn't increase fleet power, it doesn't look so impressive. But trust me, once you start getting these buffs, as you can see, they're not actually going up. So all these computers aren't showing the fleet power, but this is so strong. It's insane. If you enjoyed this video and you want to know how these planets work, because they've been completely changed, click here to watch my starter guide to planets. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.